Hi, I'm Keri Murphy, and welcome to Spotlight, where we showcase incredible entrepreneurs and their stories. There's few things people love more than their animals. They become our family members, our best friends, and although we communicate with them every day, can you really make a living off animal communication? Well, I have a guest here today who says yes. She is a best-selling author, speaker, and an animal communication expert for over 25 years. Please welcome Joan Ranquet. Joan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
You really talk to animals.
Every day.
And you make a living off of talking to animals.
For 25 years.
That's amazing. And you've trained literally thousands of other people to build businesses doing the same thing.
Yes.
So you didn't come out to LA wanting to be an animal communication expert or having this business. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, I got started, I was in the film business, and I had a horse who I really felt like was my, she was my best friend, and she was somewhat of almost like a spiritual mirror. Like everything I was working on in my life, she really sort of represented when I was out in the arena with her, and so...
As so many animals do, I feel like. They are such a spiritual reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point I bred her, and before that, though, I had been using animal communicators just for fun, and after I would have the communicator out, and this is dating me way back, so I would feel such a deep connection that I didn't know kind of how else to replicate it except to get into that space. And so in getting into that space, I felt that I was soon connecting and communicating on that level with her. And eventually I bred her, and I lost her the night of the birth. She colicked. Actually, I lost her later. We had a surgery and she was in ICU. But then I had this orphan colt, and so suddenly I found myself in that same state of connecting with someone who, you know, was pretty helpless and dependent on me.
Sure. I mean, that's a big responsibility, too, taking care of an orphan colt, I would think.
Big responsibility. Yeah. And so anyway, through experiences like that, I found, you know, that I could do it, and then I eventually studied. And then I studied more stuff. I kept learning body work and all sorts of energy healing techniques. And so now I have a school to teach people how to communicate with animals and or do energy healing with animals.
I just find that so fascinating because most people might say animal communication. That's a little woo-woo. But anyone who has a pet or an animal knows that you communicate with them all the time.
All day, everything we do. You know, when animals in the wild, they're communicating through telepathy, which is the transference of pictures, words, and feelings. And we forget that in a herd, if someone feels fear over here, the whole herd feels it. They're all in that state with each other all the time. And that's what our households are like.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Yeah, we all feel
everything,
each other, right?
Yes.
I have a toddler. I know that well.
Yes.
I know that well. So you've done TED Talks. You've written 2 books. You have a book with Hay House. When people come to you, Joan, like how do you help them understand animal communication, energy healing, and actually create a business around this love for animals?
So it starts with a love of animals, just obviously. And a lot of the people that come to me that want to learn to be animal communicators, they've often felt like they've connected with animals their whole lives. Maybe they didn't feel like they could talk about it with other people. So the first thing I do is create a really safe space for people to be able to learn and to be able to work with animals. And so...
Because you've said in the past when we've talked, like people who want to be animal communicators, like feel like they might be a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, we're a little weird.
Right. Yeah. You're a little weird.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll have a great club of other weirdos. And so anyway, so I literally have the step-by-step process for animal communication, and then the same with the energy healing, and then the third track is getting your business off the ground. And I have some really simple things that I do with people because, you know, they've got to be able to get known in their local community, but they also have to have an internet presence. So it's sort of a good, healthy marriage of both.
Right, right. Now, you lost your sister like quite some time ago. I know that kind of opened up the door for you as well, because when you have a loss, you usually try to find something that fills it.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about that.
My sister died when I was 24. She was 21. She had a brain tumor. And it really, the first thing I did, and I still can't believe this, I was living in New York City. I went down to NYU, had a library for alternative medicine. And it was literally at that point about this big, because it was 1,000 years ago. But anyway, this little space where they had a lot of information on, you know, visualizing vitamins, things like that. And no one was talking about that then. And it's actually very interesting. So I came home from New York City to Seattle with a pile of books and told my family, you know, we can do this. And they were all like, Joan, okay, you know, this is called denial. And so anyway, that stack of books sat and got a lot of dust, and my sister died. And I never lost faith in the process of energy healing. I just thought, or, you know, alternative medicine, I just thought, okay, it wasn't meant to be here. And then 2 years later, my other sister was diagnosed with AIDS, and those same books came out from off the shelf. And that wasn't necessarily what has kept her alive, although in part it has. But yeah, I had a lot of bad diagnoses for a few years there, and went through quite a bit. But my love for healing and health and all things related to that never went away.
Yeah, so you must love what you get to do every day.
I love what I get to do every day.
Yeah, I really feel that from you. And as someone who's, I mean, really one of the most respected women in this industry, and you have, you know, again, you have these best-selling books and you do TED Talks, Joan. What has been, because Spotlight is really about showcasing entrepreneurs and their story, so tell us, what have been some of the challenges that you've overcome in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, I remember in the 90s telling my dad what I was doing, and at the time, when he was still alive, he was a lawyer, very smart, very funny, and he said,
and he's going, what are you doing?
He's like, I just don't think I understand. But meanwhile, he was like truly an animal communicator. So probably in 1997, I ended up on TV talking to a baby elephant at a zoo, and I went back to Seattle, and I showed my parents this piece, and they ended up saying, my dad pulled me aside and he said, I don't care what anybody tells you, you got this from my side of the family.
I'm now taking ownership,
exactly.
right?
So that was having my dad, you know, embrace
validate
it.
That. Yeah,
was really a big thing. And I would say that, you know, some of the bigger challenges have been, I mean, I started this program during the worst recession, right? I was teaching around the country. Well, that was a challenge too. I was teaching all over the country, probably late 90s, 2000, 2001, 2002, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And so I couldn't get back to people like in Bozeman, Montana, or Steamboat, Colorado, or all these fun places where I was teaching. And so I started thinking about the whole online component of, like, if I kept people on, I talk to animals on the phone every day, why don't I just have students, you know, get them on the phone like that? So,
and now everything's online. Like, that was so smart back then, because you're going, how do I reach more people?
Yeah.
Because you're right, life happens, we can't all travel, we're busy, and so you have very successful online programs that people take from all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I have people from Dubai in my classes, and India, and it's fun.
That's just awesome, Joan.
Yeah.
And now you also travel, though.
I travel a lot.
You take people on trips. So this is great. You get to communicate with animals, you get to teach people, and then you take these amazing trips around the world to be with animals. So tell us a little bit about those adventures.
Yeah, it actually moves me to hear someone say that out loud, right? Because I'm going to Borneo tomorrow.
Yeah.
I feel like there's three things that, you know, they always say, what keeps you up at night? Three things really keep me up at night. One is the genocide in shelters, right? Like, our human responsibility. We don't take responsibility for animals, so all these animals get dumped in the shelter, and then we have to euthanize them, right? The other thing that bugs me is factory farming, and I can't do a lot about that except not participate in it. But the third one that really just sends me over the edge is the poaching and the fact that our endangered species, they're going to go away.
Right.
And so I'm committed to taking people to endangered species 2 to 3 times a year, because when you get to see a cheetah in the wild and you think about the fact that that's one of the most endangered species on the planet, and that, you know, the human wildlife conflict is part of the biggest part of the problem. And we have the same problem here with, you know, if you look at Yellowstone and the wolves. But if I can get people to these animals, have them experience them, and I mean close up, like cheetahs trying to get into the Jeeps.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want that.
Oh,
like,
no,
you stay away.
So cute, though. I mean, and cheetahs don't kill humans. So it's actually...
Okay, good to know.
Yeah,
all right,
cheetahs actually have a whole history with humans of hunting with them. They used to get on the backs of the horses with the humans, and then you'd say, okay, off, and off. Yeah, no, cheetahs are like just very large domestic cats.
Right.
I wish. But anyway, so if I can get people out there thinking about cheetahs and coming home and telling stories, that's my way of infiltrating. And ecotourism is known to starting to have an effect in places like Africa, and I'm going tomorrow to Borneo where the orangutans are, and where we're just like slashing and burning the rainforest so that we can have palm oil. And so if I can get people thinking about what our consumerism is doing, then maybe we can save some animals.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful cause, and it's great that you get to see these animals in their natural environment.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's amazing.
Yeah.
So for someone who's interested in exploring this world, seeing what's possible, what would they do? What are the next steps?
They could come to one of my intensives, and I do still get around. Like I teach in Virginia Beach at Edgar Cayce twice a year. I teach in Boston, but really they would go to my website. They might see where I'm going to be, and if I'm going to be near them, that would be great. But I also
they can buy one of your books.
They can buy one of my books, and I also have a lot of online courses. So I have an Animal Communication Home Study course, and I have an Energy Healing for Animals Home Study course where they can learn tapping, EFT tapping, and other just about the animal chakras, all sorts of behavioral things, and ways to help behavioral health challenges. Even if people go to horse shows or dog shows, I've got all sorts of calming techniques, things like that.
Yeah, and you actually have some impressive animals that you've worked with over the years, right? I mean, tell us a little bit about that. I know you don't talk about it very much, but...
I've done some tapping on some horses that are famous. I've done the EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique tapping on some international horses, and I'm not really supposed to talk about this at all, but I get behind the scenes at a lot of zoos and talk to animals. I've talked to orangutans. That's how I fell in love with them.
Aww.
And some gorillas. I've been to a lot of wildlife centers and helped people decide where, you know, maybe this hawk shouldn't be near this natural opponent in the wild.
Probably not so smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So maybe that's why he's plucking all his feathers up, but what do I know?
Right.
Anyway, so that's, yeah. So I've gotten to be I've gotten to be behind the scenes for a lot of things that I have to...
Right. But how wonderful. What an amazing life and adventure that you lead. And for people who maybe they don't want to start a business, but they have animals and they want to be able to better communicate with their own animals, the online courses and the trainings can help them with that too.
Yeah, and even the books are a great start.
Wonderful. So Joan, tell us your website. How do they find you?
My website is joanranquet.com.
All right. And we will have the link here so they can go check it out. And Joan, thank you so much for sharing your story and for doing what you do. I know you've impacted thousands of lives and have helped a lot of animals along the way too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this Spotlight interview. If you are intrigued about animal communication, energy healing, different modalities in which you can communicate with your animals, or maybe you're ready to start that dream business you have always wanted, again, check out joanranquet.com and share this video and your comments below, because when you are inspired, you inspire others. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, remember to keep dreaming it, living it, and being it. Until next time.